All right. Once again, sitting down with the Unorthodox, getting ready for this Juneteenth VIP event, and we are sitting in the presence of a veteran, as you've been at this for a while, right?
Oh, man,
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how'd you get started in this?
Man, poetry-wise, man, started probably about 8th grade, man, when teacher gave us an assignment on trying to studying poetry, right? She was like, hey, give you an opportunity to write your own poem. I wrote my own poem. Fell in love with it at the craft, and then Def Poetry Jam started coming out, so I was watching that, staying up, watching that on HBO, and then throughout the years, let's be honest, man, I'm an 80s baby, so that high school era where keyboards, and we didn't have keyboards, but we would be in class and keep people on the drums or whatever on using the desk and stuff like that, spitting, freestyling. I was always writing, right? Going from there, man, then transitioning, being in the military, writing, and then finally I got the opportunity to actually perform on stage at the Fit Cafe. And then, man, I fell in love with the craft, man, and I've been doing it ever since.
Yo, that's what's up, bro.
Yeah.
So then where do you find your inspiration or your influences for your style of poetry?
Oh, man, so first of all, man, I'm an East Coast baby, right, with the New York flair. So a lot of my style comes from that era, right? But of course, man, life experiences, not just my life, but people's life around me, TV, movies, anything, man. Like you can find inspiration and motivation through anything. You just got to write it out. But I would say honestly, man, life experiences and things I've gone through all my life is where I get most of my motivation to write and spit.
Yo, for real, I feel that. So when you're actually going through that process, you're getting your influences, your muse. What steps do you go through to really put it together? Obviously, you write it down, but how do you filter it out from the time you've written it to the time it sits on stage?
Oh, man, that's a great question. I think for me, big picture, right? So writing for me, man, it's a process. Of course, anything, but once I write it, I go back and edit it 15, 20 times, right? I mean, I can sit on my balcony, doing my thing, and I'll have an idea or a concept that I want to go write about, or I want to go do some research on it, and I'll change that because through life experiences, you can transform it, right, to whatever you want it to work. I mean, that's the beauty of being a poet, being a spoken word artist, is that you're able to take your life experiences and something that you've seen on TV, and you can relate to it and make it match, and then actually give it life, if you will. So yeah, I think that's the process, and then sitting down and constantly practicing, sending it to people, having other people listen and be like, hey, yeah, you might want to tweet that because even though I'm a veteran in the game, man, I've got people that I've looked up to for years, right? Kicking it out to them and just getting their ideas, right? Hey, maybe you might want to change this, maybe think of it this way, this is that and the third. Going from there, but then coming back and then looking at it, reviewing it, playing it over in my head. And then showtime, right? Getting on stage and actually being able to spit, actually being able to tell that story through that piece that I wrote is what I enjoy doing. So yeah.
Dope. What are your themes, if any, that you typically find yourself speaking about the most? Is it a variety, or is it just more of like everything that gives you the influence, you put it in the eyes of this particular topic?
I would say, man, my name Unorthodox, right? No right platform, meaning I don't really have a distinct platform that I write on. But of course, I am very big into the Black community and putting things back in. So I will every poem that I have touches on something about the ancestors. It touches on something about being Black, empowerment. But yeah, I think that's it really, right? There's no real theme to any of it. There's no real method to the madness. It's just being able to speak my story, write my story, speak my story, and then transform it into something that's relatable to, relatable to the people that I'm talking to or spitting for, and also relatable to myself, to provide that therapy or that outlet that I need to just get that raw emotion out.
You said that it speaks a lot more towards the Black empowerment. I think there's also an expansion on that, because you've also done one of your works where you talked about your time in service.
Absolutely.
As you are a active member, soon to be veteran, right? So, there's that transition. So then where do these other hats that you wear, where do those qualities fit in outside of that Black empowerment? How does it enhance that, if anything?
One, I mean, One, I'm a black guy, right? I'm black male, right?
Your entire life, I feel you the
Yeah.
same way.
Right? So, I mean, that's life. But also with it, man, and, being from Newport News, Virginia, I'm literally across the bridge, 15 minutes away from Gloucester, Pocosin, where the KKK is still prominent. Right? Growing up, and I mean, quick story, right? High school playing football. We do a homecoming, and we're there for a Gloucester High School homecoming game, and they're literally with their wagons with what are the big blimps of a black guy hung by a noose. And this is high school. This is my experience. Played soccer, right? Playing soccer, playing Gloucester, playing Pocosin, playing all of those prejudice, racism schools. All I heard was, "Yo, go back to Africa, Negro," right? But nigger, but whatever. Trying to keep it PG. So that's the black experience, right, for me. And then turning around and then taking it and going to being in the Army, being in the 82nd for 13 years, right? I've had first sergeants say, "Hey, you ain't gonna make it here, boy," right? So it translates to me because I've been dealing with racism my whole life. Not knowing that being black is, even though they say we're a minority, we're the majority. If you look at, the populace, right? So that's where a lot of it comes from. It's just my experiences of being black and being proud of who I am finally, and understanding that I have a voice in this world. And there are many young or even old black men, women who don't really want to share their voice, don't want to speak that. So it comes back to me, and like just being proud of who I am as being black, being West Indian, right? My father's half Jamaican, so I'm half Jamaican. All of that, right? It all comes into it, and I love it, man. So, did I answer your question?
And then some. I think you answered the next two or three. Yeah, I didn't know you was West Indian. We talk about that.
Nah, man. I really because I don't speak patois.
Well, bro, my parents are West Indian too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm first generation American. Both of my sisters and
Right.
I. So yeah, no, I get that mentality where we grew up. We started off in the island, so our upbringing was more of we're surrounded by black people. Like
Absolutely.
the islands are, when slavery was over, they were taught a trade and everyone left and they stayed and made a life for themselves. So you come to the States and you see that there is a lack of empowerment because of where the West Indies are versus here. So it's a different mentality when you're talking to ADOS, American descendants of slaves,
Absolutely.
versus Pan-Africans.
Hey.
You know what I mean? So
Right.
yeah, I mess with you, bro. Okay.
I got you.
So how do you engage with the audience during your performances?
Oh man, I think that's one of my biggest struggles, right? I mean, if you've ever seen me perform, man, I kind of zone out on the stage.
You do?
Right?
Yeah.
I have a ritual that I started when I started speaking, and before I even get on the stage, before anybody's there, I literally get on the stage and I stare at that mic, and me and that mic have a conversation prior to it. And so that when I'm focused on the microphone, when I'm actually on it, I had to learn, right? But I'm working on that, right? I'm working on actually crowd gauging and actually doing different things. But I try to put little things in my pieces that make the audience either think or respond, right? Or I try to touch them with something. I forgot one of the poems I'm talking about cash rules everything around me, right? Because everybody in the community remembers that Wu-Tang Cream got to get the money, right?
Dollar bills, y'all.
There it is, right? So I throw that in there just to say, hey, yeah, I hear you, you hear me, but let's get engaged. Let's have that conversation, right? To keep you engaged throughout the training, right? Because we do workshops of poets. They say that a typical poet, you're going to the typical crowd. You have to engage them in that first 15 seconds. Mm-hmm. If you don't gain them in that first 15 seconds, you've already lost them, and then they're trying to spin catching up the whole entire piece, right? So I try to engage you in that first 15 seconds. And then from there, we'll have fun, right? I'm going to try to touch your soul. I'm going to try to hit something that you personally know or you can reference and be like, ha ha, I remember that. So yeah, man, that's it. Like, but it's a work in progress, right?
I think that answered my next question about like what emotions do you typically want to, what reactions you want to get, what emotions are you trying to invoke? And I think that was a great way of really explaining the process, not to mention what to expect because you got a show coming up, right?
Oh man, yeah.
Tell us about this VIP event. What can people expect when they show up?
Man, June 28th, man. Shout out, man. It's gonna be right here, actually, in this dope facility, man. June 28th. I'm gonna touch you. I'm gonna bring something. I'm gonna bring a story for you. I got a story about the struggles of fatherhood, right? And not only from my perspective, but also from my father's perspective, right? Or as a child, looking at my father and taking the things that I've heard about my father and how it's translated into my life, my early childhood, and some of the decisions that I've made. To going from there and then dealing with my son who's autistic and the growth process. That poem is actually, I wrote that in 2012, and I recently revisited it because 2012, he was 2 years old. 16 now. So
It's different.
14 years of transition of watching this kid grow, right? The things that he's done, the things that he's overcome. I'm starting to get emotional thinking about it. The things that he's done, things that he's grown, the way that he reacts to certain things. I rewrote it. And I can't wait for y'all to hear it because I'm pretty sure that, think about it. I started writing in April because April is not only Poetry Month, but it's also Autism Awareness Month. So I try to wrap that in there, and I was going to do it at one of our open mics, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to save this for the people because they need to hear it. They need to hear it. And it's Father's Day, right? So...
Yeah. Bro, I forgot all about that till my wife had reminded me. She's like, Father's Day's coming up, right? I'm like, I think it is.
Yep. You know what I mean? So I think this show is definitely on 28th, man. It's not just for the women who come out, but it's also going to be for the men to come out, right? Because a lot of times we as poets, we won't really touch the men perspective of it. A lot of times we'll hit the ladies' emotions. So this is going to be for this. My set is predominantly going to be for the fathers.
You say that, man, and I just can't help but think, like, at first I'm like, yeah, but then I was like, man, I don't think none of my poems are like lady specific because everything I talk about, I talk from a father's perspective. Right. I talk from a black man's perspective. Right. I talk from, a man looking at other women and the type that I want type stuff. So it's, I if anything, I like to give women the playbook, right, versus the conversation.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And that's something else I picked up when you was performing too. Yours is a very gender neutral, but there's a very hard stance that is coming from a man's point of view.
Absolutely.
So that really helps people understand how to take it in. So, to a couple sitting next to each other, they're receiving your message different ways.
Absolutely.
And I think that's dope about your performances too.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. I mean, you think about it, right? I've been a man for 39 years. That's all I know, right? I ain't gonna say a man, but I've been in a man's body or a boy's man's body for 39 years is all I know. So I can give you the man perspective. But the fun thing about it is that I was raised by women, right? My father wasn't there. So it was my grandmother and my mom, right? My grandfather was there until I was 12, but let's be honest, at 12 years old, you're really not learning how to become a man. You're learning how to be a boy.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So once my grandfather passed, my uncle was like, yo, you're the man of the house. So I took on that burden and learned how to become a man at 12. So you'll get that, right? You'll get that, the emotion side of a woman because women raised me, but you're going to get the rawness of a man and dealing with his emotions, right? Of trying to figure out or weave his way through being a man, but still trying to be emotionally intellectual with it. So yeah, that's the word, intellectual. So yeah, it'll be done, man. Definitely come out, have fun. We'll be there.
One last question.
Yeah.
Is there a message or a catchphrase that represents your philosophy, style, your artistic mission?
Oh man. If anything, man, I would say it's in the name, Unorthodox, right? Be different, dare to be different. Dare to be out, or not say out, but dare to be different. Dare to be who you are. A lot of times we really don't know who we are until we hit that point in our life where we're like, yo, it's all or nothing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So dare to be different, dare to be yourself, love, and be prideful of who you are. I think that's me. That's who I am on stage. That's what I want to. That's what I want to actually push out. Yeah, that's it.
Perfect, man. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming out, sitting with the nitty gritty at Simply Spoken Entertainment,
sir.
telling us who Unorthodox is and what to expect June 28th, brother.
Hey, man, it was a good thing, man. I love it. Love you, man. Love the work you're doing out here in this community, man. Keep it going.
I appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
Peace.
Peace.